All right, now that you've analyzed an argument using Aristotle's three rhetorical appeals, logos, ethos, and pathos, we're going to talk about making your own arguments, your own claims. And I don't mean loud, dramatic shouting matches, of course. I mean research, evidence-based, written arguments. Think like a scientist proving a hypothesis or a lawyer presenting a case in court. So your argument needs to be sound. And to be sound, it has two components. It has to be true and it has to be valid. When we say true, we mean based on fact, the real world. When we talk about validity, we mean it's free of contradiction. So truth is determined on its basis in reality. What facts support it? Are there clear examples? Sometimes the truth is very easy to determine. If I were to tell you the sky is purple, that's clearly not based in reality. We know that it's blue. Sometimes it's not as clear. Like if we get into scientific research, there are some very convincing articles and pieces of writing out there that are based on basically junk science. So you have to really look at those arguments very closely. When we're determining if something is valid, we're asking, do the premises or reasons support the conclusion and vice versa? If the premise and the conclusion contradict one another, then your argument is invalid. A couple examples to help support that. All cats are animals, therefore all animals are cats. So this is false. It's not valid. It's contradictive. So we know that all cats are animals, but its conclusion, all animals are cats, are not. Invalid. If we wanted to make this a valid point, we would say cats are a member of the feline family, therefore cats are felines. So this is a sound, valid statement. So some questions to keep in the back of your mind when you are creating your argument essays. Do your facts support your argument? Did you stop arguing in favor of your position and start arguing in favor of the counter? Ask if there is a clear connection between the argument and supporting topics or facts. Your argument should be focused. Be very, very careful of going off on a tangent. Think about how strange it would be if we're watching an old Western flick and it's the final showdown and then suddenly a spaceship lands in the middle. This is supposed to be the movie's climax, and aliens aren't really part of the storyline. So try to kind of apply that logic to your arguments as well. Think about the counter argument. How is the counter supported? How does it stand up against your own argument? Think about what questions might be asked, what comparisons may the reader draw between your position and the counter. And then think about how those comparisons affect your argument. There are a lot of topics out there where one side seems very logical and the other side seems kind of out there, but the out there side is very, very loud and interesting, so people listen to it. So people with the more valid argument try to be loud and interesting as well, and suddenly they start losing ground with their own position. So be cognizant of that. Make sure that you are still relying on things like on the facts and keeping the argument focused. Your argument essay, it's going to start with an introduction, with a thesis, body paragraphs, and a conclusion. When you are writing your argument part 1, you are going to structure it as a 6-paragraph essay. your introduction, your 3 supporting claims, and then 1 paragraph for the counter and the conclusion. Argument part 2 is going to be a little bit different, but I don't want you to worry about that just yet. Keep it to 6 paragraphs for part 1. Arguments in real life, debates, political, we see those. Those are often examples of maybe what not to do when creating a fact-based argument. Court trials, sales or marketing pitches, commercials are essentially short arguments trying to convince you of something. And there's typically some type of question involved. In a debate, they start off with what's being debated. Marketing sales, what's being sold, that's usually front and center. Court cases, which side are you arguing for? These are the questions that your introduction will usually answer. There should be facts and supporting evidence. Don't make evidence up. Use the evidence that you find in your sources. So for a debate, they're going to include trends and stats, sales and marketing, data, court cases. How does the evidence prove guilt, innocence, or fault? And then closing arguments. What does everything point to, essentially? What conclusions should be drawn based on the evidence? We can kind of stick that question with each category here. Think about your conclusion like your closing arguments in a court case. If you're a Law and Order fan, then you know the prosecution always ties everything up nice and together for the jury, and basically concludes with, so that's how we know Bob Smith is guilty. And your conclusion should essentially do that. So if you have any questions, let me know, and move on to the next video that will focus on brainstorming for your argument.